Hello and welcome. In this video tutorial, I'm going to update the Pacific Trails Resort website using the existing Pacific Trails website files from Chapter 7 as my starting point to create a new version of the site. Our new website layout will be fully responsive using media queries to ensure it looks great on both large screens and mobile devices. The updated design also introduces a Flexbox-based navigation menu, and the content sections will now use Flexbox for layout instead of floats. I'll explain each updated style and point out why certain choices, like using REMs and media queries, are important for accessibility and flexibility. I have my code editor open, and I'm going to right-click on my Chapter 7 folder, and I'm going to select Copy. I'm going to right-click in this dark area, and I'm going to select Paste. I'm going to right-click on the Chapter 7 Copy folder, and I'm going to rename. And I'm going to get rid of the number 7 and the word copy, and I'm going to add the number 8. And there you can see I have the folder renamed. Make sure to rename the CH7 Pacific to CH8 Pacific. I did want to point out that you have a favicon.ico that you will also add to your web pages as part of the assignment instructions. The client has provided a wireframe sketch showing the new layout, which is designed to display correctly on both small and large screens. I'm going to begin with my index.html file. I'm going to go ahead and open that. And notice that the div assigned to the wrapper ID has child elements of header, nav, div, main, and footer. The wrapper ID will be the grid container. The header, nav, div, main, and footer elements are the grid elements. Now that I can see that my HTML layout is exactly like the textbook layout, I can continue forward. At the top of our page, in the head section, is our Viewport meta tag. This was automatically added in Chapter 2 when we used the Emmet abbreviation, the exclamation point, and tab. This meta viewport tag in the head of your HTML tells the browser to make the page fit the screen of the device it's being viewed on. It sets the page width to match the device and makes sure it isn't zoomed in or out when it loads. In other words, it helps your website look good on phones, tablets, and desktops without extra work. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up my specific.css file. Let's edit the styles to achieve a layout that displays well on small devices using no floats with full width elements. I'm going to remove any style declarations that configure float and left margin from all selectors. The easy way to do this is by using the keyboard shortcut Control plus the letter F, which is find. I'm going to type in the word float, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight in my nav section where it says float. I'm just going to double click on that, and then I'm going to select the backspace key and delete. There's another one that's available, so I'm going to select the down arrow to go to the next one. I'm going to double click on this, and I'm going to delete. And there are no floats left. I'm also going to look for margin -left. And anywhere where we have the margin left, I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to delete. So I have it in the footer. I'm going to hit the down arrow. You can hit the up arrow. I'm going to select margin left, delete, put my cursor inside of margin left, and I select one more time. You'll see that I have it in the main. So I'll triple click on that and I will delete. And now there are no results left. So I've removed all of those elements just by using the Control F. You will also need to remove the overflow auto property from the main selector. I'm going to scroll to the top of my page and review our global styles. We have the universal selector, the box sizing border box. This ensures that all padding and borders are included inside the width and height of elements, which makes sizing much easier to manage. After this, I'm going to go ahead and add in a new selector. It's going to be HTML, and it's going to be the scroll behavior smooth. And I'm just going to hit tab. And this will give us a smooth scrolling effect when users click anchor links. For the body, I'm going to update the styles and take from the wrapper ID. I'll first remove the background color. I'm just going to triple click on this, and I'm going to just hit the backspace key, put in some space here, and I'm going to take these first 4 styles from the wrapper: the background image, background repeat, the border, and the box shadow. And I'm going to select Control X, and I'm going to go to that empty space right there, and I'm going to paste Control V. I'm going to force my Visual Studio Code to format this page. I'm going to select Control Shift P, and I'm just going to say Format Document. So I have my background image. I will keep the dark gray text color and the sans serif font. This will keep our base typography consistent. The wrapper is the main container for our website. It holds all of the page content. We use the margin auto to center the wrapper horizontally in the browser window. To make the layout responsive, I'll remove the min width so the page can shrink on smaller screens. So I'll just triple click on this and hit delete. I'm going to change the max width. Instead of pixels, it's going to be 75 rem. Well, how did I make this conversion? I'm going to save my work. I'm going to go out to a browser, and I'm going to just open up any browser, and I'm going to type 1200 pixels divided by 16 pixels because that's the default font size in our browser, and I'll select enter. And it tells me that 1200 pixels divided by 16 pixels equals 75 rem. So I can just use my browser to do the calculations for me. The max width is set to 75 rem, which prevents the wrapper from getting too wide on large monitors, around 1200 pixels. My width, I'm going to keep at 80%, which makes the wrapper 80% of the viewport width. This change to rems makes it easy to design layouts that scale fluidly across devices instead of locking them to fixed pixel widths. I'm changing the header's height property from 60 pixels to auto so that the header can expand or shrink automatically based on its content rather than being a fixed height. I'm also setting the padding top to 1 rem to add some space above the content inside the header, which helps keep the text and links from touching the top edge and improves readability. In my nav element, I'm setting the padding to 0 to remove any extra space around the menu items. I'm also going to add text align center so that the navigation links are centered horizontally across the menu bar, making the layout look balanced and organized. Double check your CSS to ensure it matches my styles so your layout displays correctly. The nav UL, and we're going to create a Flexbox layout. So in front of the list style, I'm going to type in DF and tab. The display flex turns the list into a flex container. This lets us arrange the list items either in a row or a column easily and control spacing. And then I'm going to want the direction to be a column, so I'm going to type in FD and then column and tab. That stacks the menu items vertically on small screens. So I'm going to type in AI, and that abbreviation is AI:stretch, and then tab. The align item stretch makes the list item stretch to fill the width of the container. This ensures each menu item lines up nicely. I'm going to pause the video now and add the rest of the nav UL properties, including comments to explain what each one does. By default, the unordered list has bullets and spacing. List style none, margin 0, and padding left 0 clean it up. Display flex plus flex direction column stacks menu items vertically instead of the default vertical list with bullets. Align items stretch makes each menu item take the full width of the nav, giving a neat rectangular box-like area. The wrap allows the list items to move to the next line if they don't fit in a single column or row. This is helpful for responsive designs. I'm now going to add in a new property, nav li, and this is going to be for the list items. And I'm going to do a border bottom of 1 pixel, and it's going to be pound 003. And this is going to add a thin line under each item. I'm going to add in padding of 0.5 rem and 0, and this adds vertical padding to each list item. I'm going to add in a max width of 100%, and this adds vertical spacing inside each item, and it makes sure that each item doesn't exceed the container width. And then I'm going to do the box size border box, ensures padding is included in the item's width. So the bottom border adds a divider line between menu items. It's a subtle visual separation. The padding, I'm going to change the padding to rem. The max width 100% ensures items stay within the navigation bar. The box sizing border box ensures the padding and the border are included in the width, preventing overflows. You may ask, why use the box sizing border box when we've already used it in the universal style at the top of the page? Without it, padding and borders get added to the element's width, which can cause layout problems. Using border box makes sizing easier and more predictable. So overall, using Flexbox for the navigation makes it much easier to adjust the layout for different screen sizes, and we'll see how it works with our media queries in just a bit. The main content area has a white background to make it stand out, and there is padding around the content to give it space and breathing room. We'll update the padding using rem units for consistency and scalability across different screen sizes. And the 20 pixels is going to be 1.25 rem. 1.25 rem. And the same with this other 20 pixel. And in the 30 pixels is going to be 1.875 rem. And I'll do the same thing for the one below. It's giving me some code hinting in Visual Studio Code, and I'll just hit the check mark and I'll say accept. The width in the section, though, needs to be removed. I'm going to delete that. So I'm going to save my work. So look at my styles and make sure that they match yours. I'm going to scroll down to where I find the footer. And the footer is the section at the very bottom of our page where we usually put things like contact information, copyright notices, or small notes about the site. We have our background color of white. This sets the background of the footer to white. It makes the text and content stand out against the rest of the page. And then we have 75% for our font size. This makes the text smaller than the normal body text, which is common in footers since they usually contain less critical information. Our text align center. This centers all the text inside the footer horizontally so everything looks balanced. The font style italic. This makes the text italic, giving the footer a slightly different style from the main content. The padding 2M adds space inside the footer around the text and the content. For the footer, 2M is the ideal unit of measurement because if you ever adjust the footer font size, the padding will grow or shrink automatically, keeping the look balanced. I'm also going to add in after this a max width of 100 viewport. This ensures the footer never exceeds the viewport width, the visible part of the browser window, keeping everything contained neatly. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add in an overflow wrap, and it's OW and then it's break word. And this allows long words to be broken and wrapped onto the next line. Overall, these styles create a clean, centered, and readable footer that looks good on both large screens and mobile devices. There are no changes to the hero sections. Home Hero, Your Hero, and Trail Hero. Each section keeps a fixed height and uses background size cover, so the image completely fills the space without stretching. Every hero section displays a different image from our images folder, making the top of the page visually appealing and engaging for visitors. I'm going to add in card row class, period, card row. And for the content selections, we will use card row as the Flexbox container. I'm going to pause the video now and add the rest of the card row class properties, including comments to explain what each one does. This CSS code sets up a card layout using Flexbox. By adding display flex to card row class, we turn the container into a flexible box, which makes it easy to arrange its child elements, the cards. The flex direction column property stacks the cards vertically, one on top of the other. The gap 1 rem property adds consistent spacing between each card so they don't touch. Max width 100% viewport width ensures that the row of cards never extends wider than the viewport, keeping everything visible on screen. With box sizing border box, any padding or borders are included in the width calculation, which helps prevent layout problems. Finally, Overflow Auto allows scroll bars to appear if the content inside the row gets too big so users can still access all the cards. I'm going to add another class. It's going to be card row section. This class selector targets any element that has the class card-row and the section. This is an element selector. It targets all section elements inside the card row container. Combined, the class card row section is a descendant selector, which means will only apply to those section elements inside the card row div, not to sections elsewhere on the page. Let's go ahead and add some styles. I'm going to have a max width of 100%. And this ensures each section never exceeds the card row width. I'm going to do the box sizing border box. Includes the padding and border and the element's total width and height. And then I'm going to add a word break word, and this allows long words to be broken and wrapped onto the next line. Using this combination of Flexbox and these properties creates a responsive card layout that works well on mobile, tablet, and desktop screens. Cards stack vertically on small screens and can display side by side on larger screens without breaking the layout. The styles we just added in Pacific CSS are the default styles. I'm going to open up the index.html file. I'm going to come over here to the preview, show preview in live server. I'm going to close the file explorer on the left-hand side to give me more screen room. They apply to all devices and screen sizes, unless a media query changes them. You can think of these as the foundation or base design for the website. So this is what our website looks like currently. And one of the things I noticed is up here in the Pacific Trails Resort, if I go back to my Pacific CSS style, and it would be in the header, and where I have padding top of 1 rem, I want to make this just padding, not padding top. I think that looks a lot better. And I want to come down to my section selector, and I want to highlight this, triple click, and just remove the style. So I'm going to comment that out. If I look at the Yurts page, notice that the sections are stacked vertically on top of each other in a column, in a small screen, and in a large device as well. We'll go ahead and fix that when we add media queries. I'm going to open up my yurts.html file. So I've opened up the Yurts page, and I've scrolled down to the main section, and I'm going to select the H2, and I'm just going to comment this out. I don't want this to appear on my page anymore. And then I'm going to type in a period. It already knows that I want a div class card row. So it would be, you would type a period and then card hyphen row and then just tab. Make sure you add the closing div after the last closing section element on this page. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to open up my activities file. And you can see after the main, I've already added in the div class card row. Make sure you add the closing div after the last closing section element on this page. Next, we're going to add two media query rules. A media query is a CSS rule that lets you change your website style based on the screen size or device type. This makes your site responsive, meaning it looks good on small phones, tablets, and large monitors. I'm going to start with the @ symbol and then media, and I'm going to give this a max width. And I don't want to use pixels, so I'm not going to use this suggestion, and I'm going to type in 32.5 rem. I'm going to pause the video and add my first media query. Here are the styles for my first media query. The max width means apply these styles only if the screen is smaller than 32.5 rem. 32.5 rem is about 520 pixels. Remember, 1 rem is usually 16 pixels by default. So this targets mobile phones and very small screens. I'm going to go ahead and open up my index.html. I'm going to collapse my file explorer, and I'm going to turn on the show preview. I'm going to go back to my Pacific CSS style sheet. So let me explain the following styles that I added inside this query. For the body, I removed the gradient to simplify the design on small screens, removing the background image. I changed the border to none, and I removed the border to make it clean and less crowded. For the box shadow, I removed the shadow effect so the page loads lighter and simpler. Margin 0 removes default body margins so the content fills the screen edge to edge. For the wrapper, the width 100% ensures the wrapper fills the viewport. The max width 100% prevents it from exceeding the viewport if other styles apply. The width 100% alone is a sufficient property, but using both width and max width prevents accidental overflow from other inherited styles. The margin 0 and the padding 0 remove spacing so content touches the edges nicely on small screens. So let's look at this, what the wrapper change does. So now the content goes from edge to edge. For the header, I removed the sunset image for faster loading and simplicity. And then I removed the extra padding that's in the header. You can see the change there. For the footer, I reduced the footer padding so it doesn't take up too much space on a small screen. These styles simplify and stack the layout for mobile devices, making it easier to read and scroll. I'm going to pause the video and add the second media query. One of the most common mistakes in coding is forgetting a closing brace, especially after a media query. Always make sure you close the first media query completely before starting a new one. Missing this can break your CSS and cause styles not to apply correctly. This second media query begins with the @media min width 37.5 rem. Min width means apply these styles only if the screen is larger than 37.5 rem. 37.5 rem is about 600 pixels, so this targets tablets and desktop screens. I added the following styles inside this query. The flex direction row arranges menu items horizontally instead of stacking vertically. The justify content center centers the menu items across the top, and the align items center align menu items vertically in the center. I'm going to make my index page larger so you can see these changes right here. This is for our nav UL. For the nav LI for each menu item, I removed the line under each menu item for the desktop by applying the border bottom none. The padding 0 and 1 rem adds horizontal spacing between each menu item, and the max width none removes width restrictions so items can spread out. I'm going to open the Yurts page to be able to see the card row class. This affects the content card's layout. The flex direction row shows the cards side by side instead of stacked vertically. The gap 2M increases the space between the cards, and the max width 100 viewport width keeps the rows inside the viewport width. The card row section pertains to each individual card. The Flex 110, each card grows and shrinks evenly, filling available space. The max width 100% makes sure cards don't stretch beyond their container. These styles make the website look more spacious and organized on larger screens while keeping everything flexible and proportional. By using rems instead of fixed pixels, our layout responds better if someone increases their browser's font size for accessibility. It's a flexible way to set breakpoints, keeping navigation and sections aligned nicely on different screen sizes. So anytime you're writing media queries, think about using rems. It's more scalable than pixels and makes your site more user-friendly. I'm just going to go ahead and save my work. Control S. I'm going to open the File Explorer. I'm going to go to the index.html page and open with Live Server. So here you can see the Yurts page and my activities page. I'm going to right-click and inspect. I'm going to turn on responsive design mode over here in my inspector. I'm going to click this. Notice that I get this responsive design. It tells me what the sizes are. So if I type in 500, this is the display for a small screen. And let's just type in 601. And this would be for a tablet and larger. So now if I expand this, you can see the different breakpoints that we have set, and watch what happens up here when this size gets smaller and where this breaks at. So it breaks at 517 pixels. If you want to learn more about Flexbox layouts, there are two great resources I recommend. The first is the CSS Flexbox Guide. This is a detailed reference that explains all the Flexbox properties and shows you how to use them to create flexible, responsive layouts. The second is Flexbox Froggy. This is a fun, interactive game where you help a little frog reach its lily pad by writing Flexbox code. It's a hands-on way to practice what you've learned and see how Flexbox works in real time. Both of these are excellent for beginners, and I encourage you to try them as you continue building your layouts. This wraps up our CSS walkthrough for the updated Pacific Trails Resort site using Flexbox. You now know how each style works, how to make responsive layouts, and why using rems and media queries is a best practice for accessibility. Next, you can experiment with adjusting the Flexbox directions and gaps to see how the layout adapts on different screen sizes. Thanks for watching.